This is the OSU Roundup, and we begin with a chat with Cowboy head coach Mike Boynton. And Oklahoma State off to a great start. So let's just start pretty simply. What have you seen from this year's team that maybe you didn't see on a regular basis from last year's team? What's the difference?
The thing that I've been most impressed with is just our level of maturity with our young guys. And then the combination of that maturity blended in with a bunch of guys who've been through a lot. Particularly our seniors, but also the two sophomores who played a lot of basketball for us last year. And so collectively, we've got a group that's pretty focused on doing things that help our program, whether it's on or off the court.
You have quality seniors, guys that have played a lot, Lindy Waters, Cam McGriff, Thomas DeZagua. How have they elevated not only what they do on the court, but what they can offer off the court for this team?
Well, they have probably a higher sense of purpose, a sense of urgency also that this is the last time that they get to do this as college athletes, the last time that they get to do this together, probably ever. You know, these three guys probably won't ever play on the same team again. And so they want to make the most of it. And you can see that sense of purpose in every practice. Sometimes in your earlier years, you can maybe take practices for granted or not focus as much in scouting reports because you just assume this thing's going to last forever. When you get to your senior year, you realize, man, the time is ticking. And I have a limited amount of time to really take advantage of this opportunity to do something that I really love with guys that I really enjoy. And so I've seen those guys approach it that way with a sense of purpose and urgency, but they've also helped the young guys learn from their mistakes, learn from some of the things that they've been through. So that's more of the off-the-court leadership and tangible that they brought to this team as well.
Your sophomore center, Yorane, at the end of last year was dominant in so many different ways. What, though, has he done this year so far to add on to what he did a year ago, especially really the last month of last season?
Well, for him, it actually started right at the end of last season. You know, we tried to help build his confidence through that success that he had in those games at the end of the year by establishing a work ethic and a mindset that he should try to establish himself as the best big man in our league, which is not an easy task, but something that's certainly doable for him. So we had to attack his body this summer. Jake Manzelman, and he did most of the work just tirelessly every single day. You know, flexibility, balance, core strength, all those things that required a commitment. And he made a commitment to his body, and now it's translated into more confidence playing in the post offensively. He's still able to bring the defensive presence in terms of blocking shots. And for the most part, he's kept himself out of foul trouble, which has allowed him to be on the court more often than last year's early season games.
You went to Brooklyn, back to your hometown, and won the NIT tip-off really in dominating fashion. You took down Syracuse easily. You just crushed Ole Miss, beat them 78-37. The obvious is the national attention that goes with that, and whatever the computers decide those wins are worthwhile in the NCAA net rankings as that relates to later down the road, NCAA tournament. What's that mean to the locker room and to the guys' confidence and just the momentum of the team when you do something like that on the national stage against good teams?
Well, it serves multiple purposes. The first one is it validates our values and our beliefs in what we're trying to achieve. We set a list of goals for our group. One of them was to win the preseason tournament that we're in. It was the NIT this year. So the guys were able to check that off the list of things that they wanted to accomplish, something our seniors hadn't done in their career. But it also gives us a sense of we really can be the type of team that can be competitively relevant later in the year. Get those signature wins in the non-conference against really good quality Power 5 opponents on neutral courts. It signifies to the committee later in the year, this team is capable of doing those type of things. The NCAA tournament's played on a neutral court, mostly Power 5 teams. And so I think we've shown a good hand early that we certainly have the potential to be a team that's relevant come late February, early March, and deep into the NCAA tournament.
As you think about December and then going into conference play, what is an area or two that you're still not quite satisfied with, where you see the potential and perhaps even the need to improve?
Well, the first thing that sticks out to me is just our assist-to-turnover ratio. And it's not alarming because it's not awful, but it's concerning a little bit because, you know, Ice is probably a little over 2-to-1. Lindy's pretty positive. But as a team, we're pretty close to even, which means we've got a lot of guys that are probably on the other side of the assist to turnover ratio in a good way. And so we got to shore up our ball security a little bit more. And that comes with just repetition, get more comfortable with each other and with our system. We're implementing a lot of new guys. We got to continue to become a better rebounding team as a group. We don't have a ton of girth in there. We've got length and athleticism, but we still lack a ton of strength on the inside. So we got to collectively rebound. We got to have Ice and Lindy and Chris Harris and our guards help our bigs on a nightly basis.
So next up, Wichita State, a team obviously with Greg Marshall as head coach has had tremendous success. Matchup-wise, what do you see there? Because it seems like the up-the-line style of defense, Coach Underwood's season, which you were part of that staff that won big in Wichita. The next year, you had a very good Wichita State team down at half, gave them a lot of problems. How do you see that matchup this year? Are they maybe better equipped to deal with your type of defense? Because it seems like those two games, it gave them a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, our first year, we had a kid named Juwan Evans who really set the tone for us. The following year, I think our pressure bothered them. They had a really, really veteran team. I think they had like 7 seniors or something like that year. And they all made plays. One of them's playing in the NBA, Landry Shamet now. The Reeves kids down at OU playing really, really well for them. And so they were in transition last year, and a lot of those guys are back. So they're not old, but they've been together. And so I think just Greg Marshall's personality, he'll have a team coming here that's really, really physical, plays a really tough brand of basketball. But we hope that our pressure over the course of 40 minutes can wear them down.
So you've got a big stretch ahead. Wichita State at home, Houston on the road. They've had 2 terrific seasons back-to-back. Minnesota and Tulsa. I mean, obviously, non-conference is important, but how do you blend the importance of continuing to get better and keeping an eye on the long term versus the opportunity that sits here for a chance for some really good wins? How do you balance all that?
Well, just focus on one day at a time. And right now, focusing on Wichita State and what they are going to try to do to make it difficult for us. So we've got to be really good in our preparation. We've got to learn from some of the mistakes we made in the Georgetown game and be able to turn the page and get on to the next game. And then after that, we got finals, which is, makes the schedule a little bit differently because you want the guys to do as well as they can in final exams. But pretty quickly at the end of that week, we'll have to start turning our attention to a really, really good Houston team who's been really good at home. I think they've only lost twice in that building, and it's only been open a year and a half or so. But we know Kelvin Sampson's a really, really good coach. And after that one, we get a chance to play in front of some of our fans in Tulsa against another NCAA tournament type team on a neutral court, which is just another opportunity like we talked about with the Brooklyn games to show the committee, put us in this type of environment and we can have success.
Stay with us. Casey Kendrick and Coach Jim Littell coming up to talk Cowgirl basketball when we return on the OSU Roundup.
Whoa, that's crisp.
Crisp taste, brewed with no corn syrup. Bud Light.
Guys,
Hey, what time's your flight?
I've got an hour until I'm supposed to board.
All right, we have things to do. Is there any cancellations? I thought she was your best friend.
Yeah, she was. So they attached a dog's head on the man's body.
Where's your backpack? Mom. You know what? I think I'm gonna sew your backpack to your back. What do you think?
Welcome back to the OSU Roundup. Casey Kendrick along with the head man for the Oklahoma State Cowgirl women's basketball team, Coach Jim Littell. And Coach, we get a chance to kind of get people caught up a little bit on what's happened so far with your team. You're 6-2, and you guys are coming off a tournament in the Virgin Islands that was a fantastic tournament and an absolutely loaded field.
It was a loaded field. We opened the competition against #1 Oregon, and there was a reason they were ranked #1, a Final Four team, a group that's very talented, returning a lot of players. 4 different players are up for the Naismith Trophy or Wade Watch. So loaded team. We followed that up by playing Louisville, who upset Oregon the next day. I don't know if it was an upset. So Oregon was number 1, latest polls, Louisville number 2, and then played a really good UT Arlington team that won their conference last year and advanced to the NCAA tournament.
And we're getting ready to take on another former top 5 team, still a top 12 team at Texas A&M. We're going to talk about them. But, Coach, when you start looking at all those numbers in front of the teams that you're playing, ranked in AP polls, coaches polls, when you look at the RPI numbers, this has been an outstanding schedule so far.
It has been. It's been challenging for our kids. We've seen different styles of play. We've seen some of the feature players in the country, and Sabrina, Dana Evans from Louisville. When we played Texas A&M, Kennedy Carter led the nation in scoring. So in my mind, we've probably in a week period, 10-day period, we've seen the top 3-point guards in the country.
Well, when you look at this tournament, Coach, it's an exemption tournament, excuse me, which gets you an extra game. And because of that, you guys are going to get 30 regular season games this year, which is, again, just another one of those benefits. But, you know, Louisville moves up to number 2 in the polls now. So you have played number 1 and what is now number 2. Obviously, on the other side, Baylor was over there, South Carolina. I mean, both sides, this was a tournament that was designed to really expose and to help better these teams. 37-0 going in. When it was all said and done, these teams combined had 12 losses. Only one came out undefeated. That's a heck of a tournament.
It is a good tournament, and very seldom in the women's game do you see number 1 and number 2 go down in the same day. Baylor losing to South Carolina. So challenging games, great players, great coaches. Nels Hawkinson with Basketball Travelers puts on a great outing, and it was very, very well organized and an experience our kids will benefit from.
And finally, on the Virgin Island trip, Coach, it's an exotic place. We struggled getting down there. It was obviously a ton of travel issues, but once you got down there, you saw the palm trees, the sun. After it was all said and done, had a little bit of fun as well. And I know that's the kind of trip that's good for recruiting, and it's good for team bonding.
It's good for recruiting, but our players deserve it too. The season becomes long at times, becomes a bit of a grind. So our kids did a great job of taking business when it was time, and then we had an extra day afterwards that they could kind of enjoy the culture and create some lifetime memories.
Vivian Gray, the All-American, coming back on this team this year, Coach. She continues to establish herself as one of the best in the country. She is the victim of the scouting report. Natasha Mack, the JUCO National Player of the Year from a year ago. We've seen her terrific athleticism. Her learning curve a little smaller than most JUCO kids, but still learning to play on the defensive side. But as you look at this team right now, still need that third and potentially fourth scorer to step up.
We do, and you know, it's a lot harder to scout someone when you can have 4 to 5 people in double figures, and we constantly talk about and work towards each day developing that third and fourth person in double figures.
Defensively, though, Coach, that is become the identity. You guys are gritty. You get down, you get really after people. You can pick them up in the full court. You guys do a great job in all of that. And you're holding everybody below their average. That travels. And until the offense comes around, it's certainly nice to have that in your arsenal.
Well, we've told our players that defense travels, rebounding travels, and we've had multiple quarters this year where we've held teams to single digits, and when you do that, you're going to give yourself a chance to win games.
You'll need both of those things to travel this week. We go to College Station, the old Big 12 foes. Now it's part of the Big 12 SEC Challenge. You guys will take on Texas A&M and Gary Blair's team. Kennedy Carter, obviously a fantastic player, and defensively, you will definitely have your hands full with her.
Probably the most prolific scorer in the country right now. She scores at 3 levels. She can get downhill and score at the rim. She's got a great intermediate game, shoots the 3, gets to the free throw line. She is one that seeks her shots, and she'll be a big challenge for us.
Coach, you didn't put these teams on your schedule. Again, Texas A&M number 12 in the country. They were just number 5 or number 6. You didn't put them on there to go help your team out just to expose. You also put them on there to win. I know how much you guys really want to walk away with the win this week.
We talked about our team. You know, we win and we're competitive against high-level teams. The next step is for us to beat one of those teams.
Cowgirls will be taking on Texas A&M Saturday, 7 o'clock in College Station. Looking forward to that, Coach. Appreciate it. Best of luck in that game.
Thank you.
Hey, we will take a break. Come back. We will be joined by John Smith, the 29-year head coach of the Oklahoma State Cowboy wrestling team. That's coming up next, right here on the OSU Roundup.
ADM milling is really a part of the fabric of the Enid community. So if we were to have lost them, it would have been more than the 70 jobs that they employ.
OG&E, the City of Enid, and the Enid Regional Development Alliance were all great to work with. Not only does it allow for the growth of the new mill, but also the power is there to make that happen for the future.
Living with joint pain. Take the first step at mercy.net/cowboysortho.
Now that's crisp.
Crisp taste, brewed with no corn syrup. Bud Light.
Joining us this week on the OSU Roundup is the 5th winningest coach in collegiate wrestling history, John Smith. And Coach, let's talk now about your current team. One of the things I love about your program, these programs, and certainly wrestling, is that nobody hides from anybody. You guys know going in, you have to be prepared for postseason, for duels, all of those sorts of things once you get to the postseason. So everybody plays everybody.
Well, you know, there's nowhere to hide, and it's one-on-one, right? So, I mean, it's not if you're an athlete and you're ranked number one, you got to go out and step out, and you got to perform every day, you know. And then when you get out there, nobody can help you. You know, you got to do it on your own. And as a team, we take pride in that, you know. So, year in and year out, we have a pretty tough schedule, and this schedule's no different. Started out with Drexel, got a big win there. Lehigh had a couple of unfortunate things happen in that one, and boy, you talking about splitting hairs. When you finally decided how that one was going to be determined, we had to go a few ways down the tie-breaking avenue, and unfortunately came up a little bit short. You know, actually, we wrestled well there. You know, just an odd thing happened, and I'm not going to get too much into it because I am on the rules committee, and it was a rule, you know. So, but we had a student athlete that we didn't realize, and we're pretty careful about it. That had an infection on his face, and you know, we take steps to really make sure that our bodies are clean, that we stay clean, that nothing infectious with our student athletes. We pull them off the mat when we can. And we had a doctor that was monitoring our weigh-ins, and as we go through weigh-ins, we also go through medical checks. You know, they take a look at their face, their back, because it is a contact sport, and we do want to protect our student athletes. But for some reason, he felt like he wasn't eligible to wrestle. Kind of stepped back on it and was just like, "Are you serious?" You know, we have a trainer there that's approved of him. We brought him, you know. Anyway, make a long story short, they didn't approve of him, and all of a sudden you're missing a guy at 133 pounds, and you have to give up 6 points. So in the difference, it was 20-20, and it came down to really giving up that 6 points and that equaling our pin, and them scoring more match points. Blah blah blah. We lose the dual meet. So. But I will say that I was pleased with our performance. We really wrestled well. Knowing that we had to overcome this 6 points against a team that matched up really well with us, a team that's ranked in the top 10 at the time and still is, we wrestled well. Then you always know a little bit about your team how you handle adversity. So a tough match, obviously, for a lot of reasons, as you just mentioned. But then you come home against the number 12 team in the country, Minnesota, and really handled them well with a 21-12 victory. And a historical dual meet. You know, this is a dual meet that's been going on since 1992-93 season when I started coaching. We went, Coach Robertson, who's an Oklahoma State wrestler, Olympian, and one of our great all-time coaches called me up, and we started this dual meet my first year of coaching, and we've been doing it ever since. So to pull someone in the Big Ten and have that regularly is very odd, but we've maintained it for a long period of time, and it's been a great dual meet for both of us, both home and away. But yeah, we had a great outing. You know, you lose the match, you don't lose another one right away. I mean, that's not something we're used to. Last year we was undefeated in dual meets and ranked number 1 in the country at the end of the year in dual meets, 1-2 with Penn State. And here we are fighting, you know, in the month of November and looking at, hey, we don't wrestle well. We could find ourselves with a couple losses, but proud of what we did. And again, as we go forward from here, another tough dual meet this weekend.
Let's talk about your roster real quickly. Obviously, Dayton Fix not available this season. Obviously, working on the national or international level, and some you know, your roster building is obviously a chess match and a work of art. Red shirt, not red shirt. Who's moving in? Who's moving out? Obviously, that has been a whole lot of thought process and very interesting how this team's come together.
Well, yeah, and you know, there's some things unexpectedly that's happened, you know, that kind of set us back on our heels a little bit. Some things that, well, most of it we had no control of, but with some injuries, some illnesses, some odd things that, you know, that you're just like going, well, what's going on here, you know? So, but I think the important thing is that, you know, for us, we recognize that you don't have a bad season. Right? You don't just go, okay, Dayton Fix is not wrestling, so we're not going to be good this year. Well, one bad season or one really poor performance, you know, can take a program backwards immediately for 2 to 3 years. You know, you think, oh, we can afford a bad season. Well, most people don't realize that, you know, that's real dangerous to have. So, you know, I'm trying to gather up my guys right now and put my best team on the mat sometime before January. I can't do it right now because of injuries, illnesses, and a little bit of weight, you know, and a few knuckleheads that aren't buying into some of the things I want, really. So we're going to be solid, you know, and a good team somewhere in mid-January. And we're a good team now, but I just think some people are going, yeah, they're not going to be that good. Well, we don't have the luxury of not being good. We need to be good. We need to step out. We're Oklahoma State Wrestling, so we need to put a product that when you wrestle us, they know that who they're wrestling.
You know, I've heard you say, and we're going to talk about your next match coming up and start to wrap things up, but I'm just curious, not curious, I guess, again, being more philosophical here, but to hear you say we got a few knuckleheads not buying in. You know, in some programs, you're not either willing or deep enough to go to pull a guy because you need him. You need the points. Yet that young man, young lady eventually is not learning the lesson of you have to be disciplined. Wrestling is a disciplined sport. It's true of all sports, but wrestling truly is a disciplined sport. If you're not going to follow Oklahoma State the way, I've got somebody else I'm going to put in there. And that's not easy for coaches who don't want to have a year of setback because it's a risk.
Yeah, and they may not be as good.
Right, absolutely,
right?
sure.
But they will be. In time, they will be, right? But, you know, I think we have, you know, for the most part, our kids and our student athletes on our team are good. They just go through difficult times, and sometimes, you know, during those difficult times, they choose easy routes, you know, trying to find with their weight or with school, you know, they try to find that easy route to take. Well, there's no easy routes. Right. I mean, you got to do it properly, you got to do it right, or you're going to be exposed. So when I say the couple of knuckleheads, those couple of knuckleheads, I see them coming along pretty good, and by January, we may not be calling them that.
Princeton's 7 o'clock on Friday night. That's the next one. You got a little bit of a layoff before Bedlam, December 15th. Tell us a little bit about Princeton.
Best young coach in the nation, this guy coming in, and what he's done with this team the last couple of years has been really impressive. We went and wrestled them there last year because I wanted my guys to see Princeton, you know, and we knew going in it was, but they scored 12 points on us, you know, and we ended up scoring 27, okay, because we had the power to score 27, but those 12 that they scored were hard-fought wins, and it was 4 wins, 4 matches they won out of the 10. They match up with us well. I think this team right now that we're getting ready to wrestle is the best team we've wrestled up to this point.
Wow.
They match up with us well. They got a number 2 ranked guy in the country. They got a number 4 ranked guy in the country. They got a number 6 ranked guy in the country. I mean, they've done well, you know. And a lot of times we think, oh, Princeton, we should be whipping them, right? Well, we got to remember that most of the student athletes on Princeton's team are scholarship, you know, through endowments. And a lot of times I've offered student athletes X amount of dollars, and they're over there offering them a full ride.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so that can happen with Ivy League, and in Ivy League in wrestling has been strong, especially the last 10 years with Cornell, with Harvard, with Princeton.
7 o'clock Friday night, and Coach, crowd, I mean, it doesn't matter what the sport is. When there's a crowd, those guys react. They love performing in front of a lot of Pope fans.
You know, we had 5,000 at Minnesota first match, which was really good. And then, of course, Stillwater High School's in the football game this weekend. It's Friday night, same time as our dual meet. We want to wish them luck, and I get it if you want to go to that. But if you're not going to it, be here, because it's going to be a good match.
Looking forward to it. Coach, best of luck. Appreciate the visit.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. We'll see you next time on the OSU Roundup.